Yes, guys, Indonesia has banned the use of the Straw Hat pirate flag. It's crazy. The will of the Straw Hats has transcended the animated series and made its way over into real life, and people are using it as a symbol of freedom and liberation in their own countries where they're feeling oppressed. It's actually amazing. Sometimes I've been seeing this news happening for a while now, and this actually happened 2 months ago. Indonesia banned it 2 months ago. I only saw the news that it got banned like today, actually, but I had seen that they had been using the flag in Indonesia like a while ago. And I've seen that they've used it in Nepal as well. They've used it in other countries. And it's funny because it makes me think, did Oda ever think to himself that this could one day happen? It's amazing. Imagine writing something that people love so much and relate to so much, and it resonates with them so much that they use it in their effort to liberate their own country. It's insane. We're gonna watch a clip made by War Fronts which explains the situation, and I'll comment on it and give my thoughts about it at the end of the video. So let's get into it.
This is a symbol of warning for the government, so they have to look at their people. When Indonesian mural artist Emas Mohamed Firdaus said this to CNN, he wasn't talking about Molotov cocktails, rifles, or even banners stitched with nationalist slogans. He was talking about a skull and crossbones flag from the Japanese anime One Piece, which in Indonesia has become a rallying cry for protesters who recently took to the streets angry at the exorbitant perks that members of parliament were receiving. And it's not just in Indonesia.
Shout out the Indonesians, because that is the case in so many places. In my country of Portugal, I live in England, but my background is Portuguese and Angolan. And in Angola as well, people are not happy. Both of these countries, the governments are taking a piss. They're doing whatever they want. In Portugal, it is laughable. In Angola, it's even worse. I think in Angola gave Messi like $13 million, something ridiculous, for him to go and play a friendly game in Angola when they've got people starving. It's actually insane. And Portugal's no better.
All over the world, young people are flying this flag as a symbol of...
So shout out to the Indonesians for actually doing something about it. In Portugal, no one does anything. They prefer the narrative that it's the immigrants going over there that's actually ruining the country. They prefer that narrative, even though the country was ruined way before any influx of immigrants came. They prefer that narrative. And in Angola, it's a very young country, and I'm actually more impressed with the way that they are handling this than the way Portuguese people are handling it. Because Angolans are not having it. They are coming together, they are organizing, they are talking about the problem, and the tensions are getting higher. They're not the type of people to just sit down and accept something. So we're gonna see how that develops.
Defiance. In Kathmandu, Nepalese Gen Z overthrew a corrupt government and burned down the parliament with the One Piece skull flying overhead.
Crazy.
And even in Manila, the flag has been raised during recent anti-corruption protests. So how did this flag transform from a cartoon emblem into an international shorthand for we don't trust the elites, we don't trust the system, and we're ready to chart our own course?
That's what it meant. Well, it's funny because in the show, that's actually not what it means. In the show, the Straw Hats flag is literally just all about their own freedom. Luffy wants to become the Pirate King because he sees that position as the man who has the most freedom out of anyone on Earth. That's what he does it for. And along the way, you have to go to different places to find a way to get there. But he never set out to say, I'm going to go and liberate all of these places. He actually just ends up liberating them because everywhere is oppressed. And it's funny because in our real world, everywhere is oppressed as well. So it's not so much that the flag stands for the liberation of the world, it stands for your own freedom. And it's so interesting because we'll get into it.
And perhaps more importantly, where's it going to be flown next?
Big question.
Okay, now this is a question that we never thought we'd be asking on this channel. Honestly, we figured we'd save this one for a weep fronts or something.
That is so funny. I can imagine how many people are thinking to themselves, what the hell is One Piece? You know what I mean? I can imagine how many journalists are thinking to themselves, why am I talking about some anime? It's so funny. Amazing show. Amazing show. It has literally penetrated our culture in a whole different way. I've never seen any show, movie, or series, especially a cartoon series, just break the fourth wall the way that this thing is breaking it and bringing everybody in and people taking it and using it in real life. I've never, and being inspired by it the way that you're seeing now, where it's being flown, the flag of the Straw Hats is being flown in so many countries. Like it's actually, it's outstanding. Did Oda know that this was going to happen? Oda is the author.
Pretty real spin-off channel where we analyse anime in the same way we usually analyse geopolitics. You're welcome. You know, the sort of Naruto's foreign policy failures was last week's peace conference, a JoJo reference, that sort of thing. But since a cartoon skull and crossbones flag is suddenly the summer's hottest protest accessory, we think it's necessary to explain what One Piece is for those of you who are not familiar. Wilfred wrote this. I've heard of One Piece, but I don't know what One Piece is. I don't think I've ever seen anime in my life, I'm sorry. At its core, One Piece is a story about a ragtag crew of pirates called the Straw Hat Pirates, led by an eternally optimistic captain, Monkey D. Luffy. And when we say ragtag, we mean it.
Monkey D. Luffy. Alright, I hear you, bro. You've never seen it before. I'm just correcting you. Monkey D. Luffy.
Luffy's crew has a reindeer doctor who can transform into a human-animal hybrid, a skeleton who uses music as a weapon, and a swordsman who often fights with 3 swords, 2 in his hands.
That Brook summary wasn't, I wouldn't say that's super accurate. He's a musician who is also a pirate. I wouldn't say he uses music as a weapon. It might be a small aspect of some of his fighting moves, but he doesn't use music as a weapon.
And one in his mouth. Luffy's goal is bizarre. Luffy's goal is straightforward. Sail the seas, gather a loyal band of friends, and eventually find the mythical treasure known as the One Piece, which will make him king of the pirates. But behind that straightforward premise is a sprawling epic that has been running since...
There's a detail there that must be highlighted. He wants to become the king of the pirates because he wants freedom. He wants completely uncontrolled, no compromise freedom. That's what he wants to be the king of the pirates for. It's not just to be the king of the pirates. He equates that to having all the freedom in the world. That's what he wants, and that is why it's relevant to this video, and that's why people use the flag.
1997, this is some Simpson shit right here, and has become one of the most popular pieces of fiction ever. It has spawned a global generation of fans and has a cultural footprint large enough to rival Western works like Harry Potter or Star Wars. While that may make it sound like an exceptionally popular but run-of-the-mill anime, One Piece has always aspired to tell a deeper story. Luffy and his friends often sail from island to island, liberating inhabitants from their tyrannical rulers. And that's not just on individual islands. Luffy is also fighting against the world government, the overreaching antagonists in the series. On paper, the government exists to maintain peace. In reality, however, it's an authoritarian superstructure that censors history, crushes dissent, and shields the grotesquely wealthy nobility known as the Celestial Dragons from public anger. These dragons live in floating palaces.
It sounds quite familiar, doesn't it? What does that sound like? Sounds like something that we're quite familiar with.
Treat ordinary citizens as disposable and see slavery as their birthright. And you might be seeing how this might strike a chord with...
I'm sure I've heard that before somewhere.
Angry youth trapped in countries like Nepal or Indonesia.
If you've heard that somewhere, write it in the comments, because we might be thinking the same thing.
With high unemployment, low wages, and an elite who openly, and in the case of Indonesian MP Ahmad Saroni, called protesters against their rule the dumbest people on earth. Not that it's only One Piece's overshadowing story that touches a nerve with protesters, there's also the way Luffy deals with his fictional world's craven elite. In one of the show's most enduring scenes, Luffy encounters a celestial dragon, said Charlos, at a slave auction where Charlos is attempting to buy and enslave a mermaid, Cammy. When one of Luffy's allies, the fishman Hatchin, tries to intervene, Charlos casually shoots him without a second thought, and everyone freezes in fear, demonstrating just how powerful the dragons are. But rather than cower like everyone else, Luffy simply punches Charlos, and there are consequences.
This was the scene that locked me in forever with this show. It was that exact scene. Let's take it back. It was this exact scene.
Fear, demonstrating just how powerful the dragons are. But rather than cower like everyone...
It was this exact moment that you're seeing right now. This is what made me fall in love with the show. This is what made me say, okay, this is the greatest show ever made. And this is not even halfway into the show. I'm pretty sure it's not even halfway into the show. This was early-ish into the show. This was before the real crazy... This was the craziest thing that had happened in the show up until then. And since then, it's nothing compared to what's happened. But this is what set the tone for what the show was going to be. And this is what made me fall in love with it. Amazing scene.
Everyone else, Luffy simply punches Charlos. And there are consequences. Attacking a celestial dragon brings the full weight of the world government crashing down on Luffy and his crew. Admirals, the military's most powerful weapons, are dispatched to hunt them down. The Straw Hats are scattered across the world, separated for 2 years, but the punch reverberates far beyond its immediate aftermath. We don't need to tell you why this scene is so electric.
There was a moment before this that done everything that he is saying. It's just that nobody had ever touched the celestial dragon. No one had ever touched the celestial dragon. People had been in wars with the world government and this sort of stuff, but no one had ever touched the celestial dragon. Like that's completely off the cards. That's unprecedented. No one can do that. So that's why it was such a crazy situation.
How it shows someone willing to strike back against untouchable power, consequences be damned. For Mateja Kovacic, Associate Professor of Asian Studies at Yonsei University in South Korea, this is why One Piece has become an enduring symbol among protesters.
100%.
Speaking to New Lines magazine, he said, they are fighting against the powerful on behalf of the weak. That's what made One Piece popular among Hong Kong protesters too. On the one hand, there's this systemic abuse of power by the elites, and on the other, a group of misfits brought together by the idea of following their own moral compass. And that idea of a group of misfits banding together is another key reason why One Piece is connecting with young protesters across the world. The Straw Hat Pirates don't have a rigid hierarchy and operate more as a gathering of equals than anything else. This mirrors how modern protest movements actually function. Young protesters...
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Luffy is the captain. He is the captain, and I guess he does have the final say on what the crew does, because they're only with him because he asked them to be with him. He said, join my team, and I'm trying to do this. I need you on my team. Come and join my team. But it's worth noting that every single guy that joined his team told him that they have their own dream as well, and that it's something that they are trying to achieve in their own lives. And Luffy's like selling point is like, listen, I'm trying to be the Pirate King, and if you roll with the Pirate King, it's gonna be easier for you to achieve your goal, and you guys are gonna make it easier for me to achieve my goal. So I see what he's saying there, where it is a gathering of equals. It's a gathering of people who all have their own dreams in life, and they're working together to achieve it. And yeah, there is no real strict hierarchy. Like I said, Luffy does have somewhat of a final say on what happens, but they also look to Luffy because he leads with his heart, and he leads always with the best intentions for everybody, really and truly. So they trust him in that sense. It's not so much we have to listen to him. It's like, let's listen to him because we know that he's gonna have the best solution. But even saying that, Luffy has absolutely no problem with passing the wheel over to someone else. Absolutely no problem. He'll say, all right, you run it then. If you know what's the best thing to do, then you decide and we'll go with your idea. He has no problem with that. And if people make mistakes, he doesn't care either, which is what makes him which is what makes him a leader. I feel like the best leaders are the ones that you can't really tell is the leader, if that makes sense.
Have largely rejected traditional hierarchical structures in favor of distributed networks where individuals bring their unique skills to a shared cause. Artists create posters, influencers mobilize their supporters, and coders build apps to track government action. Hence why the Straw Hats flag continues to resonate with protesters worldwide. Young people standing up against injustice through decentralized, leaderless systems see themselves in Luffy and his crew. But understanding why One Piece resonates with protesters, that's only half the story. The more interesting question is how a Japanese pirate manga went from pixels on screens to flags flying over burning streets. The Straw Hats flag has appeared sporadically in protests around the world, but its first widespread use was in Indonesia. Surprisingly, it didn't begin with students storming parliament or activists calling for democracy. It began with truck drivers. Every year, in the lead up to Indonesia's Independence Day on August the 17th, truck drivers fly the country's flag as a routine display of patriotism.
Yeah, this is how I first heard about people using the flag. It was the truck drivers in Indonesia.
The red and white waving proudly as they traverse the nation. But this year, something changed. Truck drivers around the country began flying the One Piece flag, either in place of or alongside the Indonesian flag, as a protest against the increasingly difficult economic conditions. Rahmat, a local truck driver, told the weekly Indonesian outlet Tempo that he and his colleagues had adopted the flag as a peaceful way to demonstrate. Quoting here, "This is purely an expression of aspiration. The hope is that the government not only listens, but also provides solutions. Don't let the lower income population continue to be oppressed." The truckers weren't just protesting the country's declining economy. They were also mad at a new ODOL policy introduced by the government. ODOL, meaning overdimension overloading, refers to vehicles that have been modified to carry a load heavier than what they were initially meant to. According to the Indonesian government, ODOL increases the risk of accidents and the amount that the state spends on road repairs. The Indonesian Ministry of Public Works and People's Housing estimates that the state has spent more than 43 trillion Indonesian rupees repairing roads damaged by ODOL trucks. The drivers, on the other hand, often feel they have no choice but to exceed legal weight limits because cargo owners have come to expect it as a standard service. Gemelan Taragan, chairman of the Indonesian Trucking Entrepreneurs Association, told local outlet Berat Satu, and we'll quote him here, "If we tell clients our truck can only carry 10 tons, we get no jobs because others can haul 25 tons and beat us." End quote. The flag quickly spread among Indonesia's trucking community, as chronicled by the Instagram account.
That is so crazy. Like, how are you just burying them alive like this? It's so mad. Shout out the truckers for getting active and doing something about it. It just shows how one small gesture can make such a difference.
HK Pro 78. And soon enough, the flag was all over the country, not just on trucks, but artists like Imas Muhammad painted the straw hat skull in graffiti across the walls of cities, motorbikes drove past with flags tied to their rear racks, and boats along Indonesia's coasts began raising it on their masts, mirroring the straw hats. The governments, on their part, saw the One Piece flags not as an attempt by a desperate public to communicate with their leaders, but as an affront to the nation. Sufmi Dasko Ahmed, the nation's deputy house.
That's how they see it. It's crazy, bro. Like, when you look at it, like logically, yes, this is how people think. It's written by a man, a human, just like anybody else. He's writing how he believes humans would react to something into a show, and so yeah, in real life, it's going to play out the same way, innit? But it's just to say that these officials, instead of like saying, okay, our people are obviously aggrieved about something, they're looking at it and saying, okay, you guys are trying to get a bit too big for your boots, and we don't like that. So now we're going to smack you down. And it's literally the same in the show. Some pirates, yeah, are bad, without a doubt. But a lot of them just are sick of living a rubbish life. So they rather just take their lives into their own hands. And the world government, which has what they call the main power in the show, doesn't like it.
Speaker called it a coordinated attempt to undermine national unity and divide the nation, while another lawmaker even suggested it could be treason. This reaction, according to regional observer Farhan Rizkwala, gave power to the symbol. On the publishing platform Medium, he wrote, quote, "By treating a cartoon flag as a threat to national security, they have inadvertently validated the entire premise of the protest.
Exactly.
They have shown that the dream of Monkey D. Luffy, the simple, unwavering desire to be free, is one thing they truly fear."
Exactly. Like, of course. It's, like I said, it was a small gesture by some truckers to say, yo, listen, come on, man, help us out here. These guys saw the flag, they said, what? The truckers what? The truckers are piping up a bit too much. We don't like that. Treason. Insane.
Yeah. On the 25th of August, this long-simmering anger against the government culminated in the protests that we alluded to at the start of this piece, against the exorbitant perks that members of parliament were receiving. And the Straw Hats flag was at the centre of it. From Indonesia, the flag went international, appearing next in Nepal among Gen Z protesters, then in the Philippines. It even crossed oceans into France, where protesters angry at the government's planned spending cuts were spotted not just carrying the flag, but also wearing straw hats. To be clear, the impact and extent of these protests has varied wildly. In Nepal, they overthrew the government. In Indonesia, they led to the firing of ministers and major policy changes. In France, they so far have only managed to demonstrate, once again, how locally unpopular Macron is. Still, the use of the flags across these protests underscores a key point. The protesters are from the same generation, have the same or very similar frustrations with their governments, and share a feeling that traditional political channels have failed them. However, even with these similarities, the flag bends, as all symbols do, to reflect the unique experiences of the people waving it.
But all roads lead to Rome on this one. Yes, they're all going through different situations, but the intent behind waving the flag, for all of them, it's the exact same. We just want to live with dignity. Like, we just want to live with dignity. Please, give us a chance to live a life that we feel proud of. We don't feel like we're being pressed down. Do you know what I mean? We have the opportunity to sustain ourselves, to support our families without a constant pressure that tomorrow you may not be able to do that. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, so like he says, it bends to all these people's situations, but the intent behind the flag is always the same.
The Straw Hats flag isn't the first anime symbol used to advance a political cause. In 2019, during protests in Chile against austerity, protesters carried signs referencing the same anime that we did at the start, Naruto, as well as other anime such as Attack on Titan. One protester went viral for dressing up as Pikachu, a beloved character from the Pokemon anime, and standing firm in the face of water cannons and pepper spray from the government. Her act?
Yeah, okay. I see how that would work. Yeah, I see how that would work.
Cosplay defiance turned into something bigger.
I wonder what the Attack on Titan one is, because that's extremely relevant to this sort of stuff.
She would eventually be elected to Chile's Constitutional Convention, the body in charge of drafting a new constitution for the country. In Thailand, protesters sang a politically charged parody of the Hamtaro theme song as they demanded...
Hold on a second, what did he say?
...viral for dressing up as Pikachu, a beloved character from the Pokemon anime, and standing firm in the face of water cannons and pepper spray from the government. Her act of cosplay defiance turned into something bigger, as she would eventually be elected to Chile's Constitutional Convention, the body in charge of drafting a new constitution for the country. In Thailand, protesters sang a politically charged parody of the Hamtaro theme song as they demanded the dissolution of parliament. Anime figures also made an appearance in Hong Kong during the anti-extradition bill movement. There, the protesters made reference to a wide variety of anime, from classics such as Doraemon to modern mega hits like Demon Slayer. So, why is anime such an enduring part of...
Alright, so yeah, I'm going to leave the video there. I'm not going to play this guy's whole video. But yeah, if you want to go and check it out, War Fronts, How One Piece is Shaping a Generation of Protest. Interesting what you said there at the end. The other animes that have been used to express this feeling of rebellion this disdain of government and the people that control you. I said in the beginning that I've not seen a show that has influenced a people as much as One Piece. And to be fair, I don't think that's completely accurate, because V for Vendetta did that. I think that the whole idea of V for Vendetta, and it's funny, if you go watch V for the Vendetta right now, you're going to see a lot of things that it's like, wow, it's almost like they predicted what the world would be like. But V for Vendetta had a big impact on the world. I feel like the group Anonymous, well, I don't feel like, I almost know that they came directly from the V for Vendetta concept. They wear the masks, you know what I mean? They're trying to take down government, like, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's fair to say that V for Vendetta has probably been as impactful as One Piece in this sense, but I guess the difference with One Piece is that now you're talking about a show that is captivating audiences that start at 8 years old and go all the way into their 50s. Because there's people who the show started in 1997, and there's people who in 1997, let's say, were 20 years old. Now it's almost 30 years later. You got 50-year-olds watching this. And I know there's guys older than 20 years old watching anime at that time anyway. So you're talking about a show that has grabbed the attention of about 4 to 5 different generations of people. And I feel like V for Vendetta was something that was more understood by people in their 20s, 20 to 30, maybe even 40. But nowhere near the reach that One Piece has in terms of age groups. So I think I can still maintain my statement. It's the most influential show that has come out. And really and truly, the guy only mentioned a few countries. If I ask my friend Edison how many countries have actually flown this flag, I'm sure he's going to give you more than the ones that were mentioned in the video. So let's actually do that. Let's see what Edison comes up with. Edison's actually just ChatGPT. I just call it Edison because that's what Vegapunk calls his robot. That has like all the information. So it's like an AI robot basically that has all the information. So it got flown in Indonesia, like we just saw. Nepal, like we just saw. I don't know if he mentioned Madagascar. Philippines, he mentioned. Peru, I don't think he mentioned. Seen Gen Z protests in Lima against pension reforms and wider political grievances. Morocco, I didn't know about that one. Reported use by Gen Z protesters in cities during regional waves of youth protest. Kenya, I didn't know that. Appeared as an icon in youth protests, reported as part of 2025 Gen Z wave. Serbia, I didn't know that either. Flag surfaced in protest following high-profile incidents, reported as part of the wider Gen Z protest phenomenon. France, we saw that. Italy, cited at Gaza war solidarity protests and other demonstrations in late 2025. I didn't know that happened in the United States. In Portland, Los Angeles, Miami, Spokane, I don't know what that is. New York, small but visible appearances at local protests. Example, ICE actions, anti-Trump. At the No Kings Dem, I didn't know that. Coverage varies between local outlets and aggregated reporting. Mexico, that's the most recent one that I saw. Used by a Generation Z group in late 2025 protests against drug violence and security policies with that crazy new Mexican president, that lady. Peru, again, multiple sources confirm persistent use across weeks of protests in Lima and provincial centers. So they're just going hard in Peru. East Timor, which is also linked to my country, Portugal. Student union protests have at times used the flag among other pop culture symbols. So look, this is taking over the world and it's all happening this year. It's all happening this year. All of these countries have only seen these things happen this year. It's not a joke. I started this series because I can see the impact that this show has. Yeah, I saw the impact it had on me, the people around me, and now I'm seeing the impact it's having on the whole world. Like this is so amazing to see. And once again, I just gotta say, did Oda see this coming? Because he must be. I can't imagine how he's feeling right now. This is insane. Like, who's actually going to be the next country to fly this flag? We've seen that in Italy, they were doing it on behalf of Gaza, on behalf of Palestine. Is Palestine going to fly it? Are we going to start seeing this flag somewhere in Palestine? Are we going to start seeing the flag somewhere in Sudan, in the Congo? You know, maybe even in my home country of Portugal, are we going to start seeing it? Are people going to start clocking onto the situation and understanding that it's not the minuscule amount of immigrants that come to the country, and it's actually the people who are in control of who comes in and out of the country that is fucking you lot over. Excuse my language. So yeah, man, amazing stuff. It's so cool to see something like this. Especially like, it's cathartic as well, because people laugh at you for watching these cartoons, and then you see the cartoons spill over into real life, into such serious situations. It's kind of like, yeah, see, you think I watch this because I like cartoons. I watch this because the story is outstanding. The story is outstanding. The characters are amazing. They represent real humans. They represent real human spirit. They represent real human emotion. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Long live Oda. Long live the Straw Hats. And may all of these countries that are feeling the need to protest in this way get the solution that they want. You know what I mean? But yeah, see you guys next time.